First Liberty Institute Senior Counsel Stephanie Taub is on the line. Trump's EEOC guidelines. She's got an article, and we're going to talk about it. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Fawn. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. So, obviously, First Liberty fights for religious beliefs, and you have for many, many years. How long have you guys been around? Do you even know?
Oh, well, we've been around in some form or another. Our CEO has been fighting for religious liberty for about 30 years. Mm-hmm. And so we've been around for a while.
Well, that's the first time we had to start fighting because it was just a given back then that everybody loved God, believed in Jesus, and didn't think they were a duck. So it was, we didn't have to worry about it quite as much as we do now. But DEI and stuff like that just pretty much put Christians out on the back porch and just, you're out of the game. You can't pray. You can't think about God. You can't do anything. You won't be hired. You this, that, the other thing, whatever. But in recent years, it's become very difficult for Christians to even be able to say they're a Christian out loud in the workplace.
We've seen that in quite a few workplaces, and we've seen companies that are using these DEI initiatives to push their sort of certain ideologies that oftentimes conflict with the religious beliefs of employees of faith. Mm-hmm. And so that's why what the Trump administration is doing is a breath of fresh air.
Oh, such a breath of fresh air. So let's start. Okay, so there is no more DEI training or departments or anything at the national level. I think there's probably a few still sneaking around somewhere in the United States, but they're supposed to be done away with, right?
That's right. So there was an executive order by the Trump administration getting rid of DEI in the federal government and asking people to report if there was DEI under other names. Yeah. That was still going on. So that was step one in getting rid of DEI, and we're seeing there's been some other progress as well within the administrative agencies.
So the Department of Ag would not opt out of a mandatory DEI training session, you said in your article, and that was odd. I think even Trump had a head scratcher on that one.
Yeah, so sometimes we receive requests for legal help from people who, like this employee at the Department of Agriculture, that wasn't one of our cases, but we've seen several people that have similar concerns about these trainings that are at companies where they're wondering, am I going to be forced to agree with an ideology that is in conflict with my religious beliefs? Mm-hmm. And so this case, it's an interesting case. They held that the employee did have to attend that training, but they said it might be a different story if the employee was affirmatively required to profess agreement with values that went against his religious beliefs.
Well, having to sit there and listen to it is torture. You shouldn't have to listen to it if you don't want to.
Well, it's a delicate balance, but that's kind of what we're seeing with these that's what we have been seeing, at least so far, with these sorts of cases.
Well, the Civil Rights Act of 64, which is Title 7, is it 7?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Mm-hmm. It has a lot to say about DEI and that it's not even defined and should not be considered part of the Civil Rights Act.
Yes, that's right. So the EEOC put out a statement saying that DEI is not in the Civil Rights Act, that it's nowhere there. And essentially, they're arguing that employers should no longer be able to use DEI as an excuse for discrimination. So employers cannot fire you because they don't like your religious beliefs and then claim that it was a part of your DEI initiative.
Yeah. So a lot of times they'll fire you because of whatever your beliefs might be, and then just say, "Oh, they were a terrible employee," but your work record doesn't show that you did anything wrong during that time. So they do try to lie about it when they do these sorts of things. But you wrote in your article that this new EEOC is a breath of fresh air, and so explain why that is.
Yeah. So often companies have been implementing these policies, and they've been very blatant about having specific racial quotas or performance or goals to have a certain percentage of a certain class in certain positions, like on your board or in positions of authority. And but the EEOC guidance documents say even using any sort of protected class as a motivating factor in the employment decision is illegal. And so that seems that these programs that are giving preferences or excluding certain people, that sure seems to be using these protected categories as a motivating factor, which would be illegal under the EEOC's interpretation.
Yeah, the part of DEI that I hate the most is their involvement of trying to manipulate Title IX. That bothers me the most. It also bothers me that they think biological men should be in women's facilities where we have to change clothes right down to the kindergarten age. I mean, these sorts of things, they are just so completely unacceptable that it's a safety issue at this point. I don't care if you identify as a female and you're a dude, you still have your parts. And I don't want to have to explain that to my child or my college-educated girl of why you're in there, or if you have a reaction to the female body while you're in there. There are a lot of things that could happen.
Right, and it's absolute. You're absolutely right. And we've seen companies trying to silence or intimidate their employees who have a different perspective on these sorts of issues. I know I've spoken with you before on your show about the Alaska Airlines case, but it's such a great example of kind of the horrible things that companies can do to try to force compliance with their DEI initiatives. Because we have two exceptional flight attendants that posted about their concerns about the Equality Act's impacts on religious freedom and on women's safety in private spaces, and for that they were investigated and ultimately fired.
I can't wrap my head around that. I mean, how do you regulate their morality? I mean, they have a right to be moral.
Yeah, and they have a right to their religious beliefs. And Title VII, the clear text of Title VII says you cannot fire them because of any aspect of your religious beliefs or practices, because those are protected. And so this is, I mean, it's just flagrant what we've seen. So fortunately, this, with the Trump executive orders and with the agencies implementing new guidance, hopefully the companies are going to make a real change and move toward respecting religious beliefs of their employees.
Well, that's green light for us to finally get back to basics and gosh, just reality. You know,
I hope so.
It's like just reality. Let's get back to reality. You know, Stephanie, I know you're a lot like me, and with a Christian heart, which I'm not a perfect person. I do lose my temper. I do dumb things sometimes, but I know in our hearts, we don't care how other people want to live their lives. We really, I don't care. You can do you. I'm not in charge of your salvation. I don't care. I will be nice to you if you're nice to me. I don't care. You're not going to change me. I'm not going to change you. So if we can't live together, quit trying to force me to live in your world. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, a lot of times people don't understand that people are faced with the choice of, am I going to be fired? Am I going to lose my job, my ability to feed my family? Or do I have to speak in ways that violate my religious beliefs? Do I have to act in ways that violate do I have to lie on the job? Do I have to face a crisis of conscience? So too many people are being forced to choose between keeping their job and being true to their religious convictions.
You know what worries me about this, though, Stephanie? It is an executive order, so if a Libet gets back into the presidency, they could just wipe it all away.
This is why it's so important for Congress to step in and really make these changes. But even in the meantime, there was some articles recently about companies actually are making changes to their DEI. There's I saw a list of about 30 companies that are getting rid of quotas and preferences and preferencing certain like minority-owned suppliers and things like that, and stop associating with certain groups. So there are actually changes that are being made on the ground by companies. And so hopefully, if there's enough public support, maybe these changes will stick.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I think we're kind of split right down the middle, so it'll have to be Congress that makes the decision, and even that is split right down the middle. So we're living on a teeter-totter, Stephanie. That's where we are. But Trump's EEOC does give us faith and hope that things can be back to normal.
Yes, sure hope so. We'll continue. In the meantime, we're going to continue to fight. We're First Liberty, and we are fighting for employees of faith in the marketplace and throughout the whole public arena.
All right. And how do you know if your case would qualify for First Liberty?
Well, you can reach out to us. We have a request for legal help form that you can fill out at firstliberty.org, and we'll take a look. Our attorneys will take a look at every single one, and we'll get back to you if we're able to help.
Okay.
We obviously can't take every case, but we try to help as many people as we can.
Right. And I mean, the whole thing with statues has kind of faded out, with everybody freaking out about statues and this and that, but they're putting up statues now that I find very offensive, that have nothing to do with religion, but where we're honoring gangsters and stuff like that, and that bothers me a little bit. But guess what I don't want, Stephanie? I don't want to go knock it down or throw red paint on it or demand that it be taken down. I'm just going to stay away from it. I'm just not going to look at it, and I wish the left would learn how to act that way. Anyway. She is Stephanie Tubb, Senior Counsel at First Liberty Institute. They are a nonprofit, so if you are so inclined to help them fight for the good people of the Christian world, do they just donate on your website?
Yes, we have an option for that, and also just prayer. We appreciate your prayers for this new administration, and that we'll be able to have a successful country that respects religious freedom for everyone.
For everyone, including the Jewish people and the Muslim people and the Christian people. We can all worship the way we want. We just don't get to dictate to others how we get to do it. Stephanie, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.